I'm Loretta. Standing at the PDX airport security line, I'm about to embark on a new chapter in Austin. The early morning light filters through the skylights, giving the terminal a soft, Pacific Northwest glow. A large coffee from the Seagate's card in my hand, I think about the long journey that led me here. It all started on that fateful Tuesday evening when my family, my mother, Carol, my father, Henry, and my sister, Ivy, turned their backs on me. For hours before that eviction, I was in a conference room on the 11th floor of Crestwood Group's downtown Seattle office. The view outside was a typical Seattle fall sky, shifting between gray and purple, as indecisive as my future. My manager, Ryan, sat across from me with an HR folder. I could tell from his expression that he'd delivered this speech before and hated every second of it. I'd known for weeks that Crestwood had been losing contracts since spring, and a restructure was inevitable. My position as a senior financial analyst, after 8 years and 2 promotions, was on the chopping block. Ryan broke the news gently, mentioning the severance and 8-week full benefits through the end of the year. I thanked him. It was the professional thing to do. What he didn't know was that I had a meeting on Thursday with my attorney, Leo Thompson, about an acquisition offer for a company I'd co-founded 4 years ago. The company, Luna Analytics LLC, was valued at $3,200,000. I'd kept it a secret from my family, just like I'd kept quiet about my savings and investments over the years. Driving home on the highway, I had the HR folder on the passenger seat and the acquisition paperwork on my kitchen counter. The numbers were significant, but my family was oblivious. As I pulled into the driveway of the house I'd moved back into 8 months ago, the smell of Carol's famous lasagna hit me. It was a smell that used to bring comfort, but this time it felt like a false promise. Ivy's BMW was parked next to my mother's Lexus. When I walked in, I noticed 3 things right away. The table was already set, the TV was off, and Henry had his hands folded in front of him, a sure sign that he'd made a decision. I sat down and told them about my job loss. Before I could finish, Ivy's face changed. Instead of concern, she snapped, "Who's going to pay my car loan now?" The room went silent. Carol set her fork down deliberately and looked at Ivy, then at me. I could see her making a decision. Henry unfolded his hands and said in his firm, decision-making voice, "Your sister needs this house more than you do right now. You're resourceful, Loretta. You'll figure it out." Then he went upstairs to pack my bag. I sat there, stunned. I realized that for years, I'd been the family's safety net. When I was 16, Henry's real estate business hit a rough patch. I remember the late-night phone calls and the worried looks on my parents' faces. One morning, I counted the money from my part-time job at a local grocery store. I had $250, and I knew the mortgage payment was much more. But I put $200 in an envelope, wrote for the mortgage on it, and left it on Henry's pillow. He cashed it, and for 12 months, I continued to give him that money until the business recovered. He never asked where it came from, and I never told him. 4 years ago, I co-founded Luna Analytics LLC with my colleague, Max. He was a brilliant engineer but had no business sense or capital. I invested my savings and took 60% equity because I wanted control. I'd seen too many projects go wrong because of overconfident but wrong-headed decisions. 3 years ago, when the company started making a profit, I took a distribution of $380,000 and bought a beach house in Ocean Shores. I titled it in my name, and Carol mentioned a few times that her friend's beach house was lovely, hinting that I should find something similar. 6 weeks before that fateful Tuesday, a mid-size fintech company from San Francisco sent an acquisition offer for Luna Analytics. I retained Leo Thompson to handle the deal. He reviewed the term sheet, identified some issues, and told me we were looking at a clean close in 45 to 60 days. I built a family buyout option into the deal. If activated before closing, $190,000 of the acquisition proceeds would go into escrow. $170,000 would pay off the mortgage on the Seattle house, and $20,000 would retire Ivy's car loan. After Henry packed my bag and left it on the porch, I went to my friend Tom's apartment. Tom has lived in the same place on Pine Street for 5 years. When I arrived, he made me a cup of tea, just like he always does in a crisis. I told him what had happened, and he listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "Loretta, you've been their safety valve for 16 years. The moment you needed them, they turned off the pressure." I lay on his couch that night, cataloging what I had: my duffel bag, my car, my laptop, my phone, and Leo's number. What I didn't have was a place to live after that week or a salary starting Monday. But I had the acquisition deal, and I knew that if Thursday went as planned, my life would change. The next day, I booked a furnished studio in downtown Seattle. I also spent time removing myself from all the accounts I'd set up at the Seattle address, like the bill pay for the family's internet and the recurring transfer to the mortgage. I got a text from Henry asking me to call Carol, but I ignored it. On Thursday, I drove to Leo's office. The city was damp and muted, just like my mood. Leo walked me through the acquisition deal. Everything was in order, and then he presented the family buyout option. As I read the document, I thought about Henry's words at the kitchen table, Ivy's self-centeredness, and all the times I'd silently supported the family. I decided to remove the family buyout option. Leo didn't question me, he just made a note and moved on. After the meeting, I felt lighter. I'd been carrying the weight of the family's expectations for too long. I opened my phone and started looking for apartments in Austin. Over the next few weeks, I received calls and texts from my family. Carol called to tell me that Ivy was doing better, but it was clear she was more concerned about Ivy's well-being than mine. On day 14, I canceled the recurring transfer to the mortgage. On day 21, Ivy called, asking me to come home for dinner to clear the air. But I knew it was just a ploy to get me back to solve their problems. On day 45, I received a text from Leo saying the deal was done. The wire confirmation showed a net amount of $2,870,000 after fees. I applied for an apartment in Austin, and it was approved. I booked a one-way flight. A few days before my flight, Tom called to say Henry was at his place. When I arrived, Henry looked tired and defeated. He started talking about the mortgage issues and Ivy's car payments. He admitted he didn't know about Luna Analytics. I told him I'd been planning to tell them about the acquisition and the family buyout option, but after that night, I removed it. He put his face in his hands and said, "I've been doing this to you your whole life, haven't I?" I told him about Austin, the new job, and the beach house under property management. I also gave him information about a hardship restructure program for the mortgage. Now, standing at the airport, I look at my boarding pass. I've cut the cord that tied me to a family that took me for granted. I'm ready to start a new life in Austin, free from the burden of being someone else's safety net. As the plane takes off, I look out the window at the receding Seattle skyline and know that I'm leaving behind the past and embracing the future. If you've ever been the one who silently fixes things and covers the costs, this story is for you. There's a difference between giving out of love and being taken for granted. It's time to ask yourself who in your life assumes you're always okay and what would change if you let yourself need something in return.